Love at Lookout Point. An Alphabet Sweetheart's Romance. Written by Susanne Ash. Please like and subscribe. Chapter 1. Quinn. In 1 mile, turn right onto Mountain View Drive. My GPS cuts through the indie folk playlist that's been my companion for the last 3 hours. I turn down the volume as the winding road opens to reveal the valley below. It's a postcard-perfect scene of autumn-touched trees hugging a small town that seems to have sprouted right from the mountainside. My heartbeat quickens as I descend into Juniper Falls. Brick buildings with cheerful awnings, a white-steepled church, and a town square where orange and red banners flutter in the breeze. The late afternoon sunlight bathes everything in golden light, making even the simplest storefronts look enchanted. I slow down, taking mental notes of places I'll want to capture later. There's a charming bookstore with a coffee shop sign and a general store with rocking chairs on its porch. My fingers itch for my camera, already framing shots in my mind's eye. When the GPS announces my arrival, I pull into a narrow gravel driveway beside a powder blue cottage with white trim. At the edge of the property stands a little free library that's an exact miniature of the main house. I'm halfway out of my car when a voice calls out from the neighboring yard. "You must be Quinn Harper." "Right on time, dear." A woman with silver white hair and sparkling green eyes waves from behind a row of late-blooming mums. She wears a cardigan that seems to have been knitted from rainbows, and charm bracelets jingle from both wrists. "Hazel Elliott," she says, extending a baringed hand. Her skin is soft but her grip is surprisingly firm. "I've been watching for you since 3. It's so nice to meet you in person," I say. "Your emails were so helpful in planning this trip." Hazel beams. "Well, I believe in fate, dear. When you wrote asking about filming locations in Juniper Falls, I just knew you were meant to come here." Her eyes twinkle in a way that makes me wonder if she knows something I don't. "Now, let's get you settled. Clara won't be home from school for another hour, but I have the key to the apartment." I retrieve my backpack and camera bag. "The rest of my gear can wait until morning." "You travel light," Hazel observes as she leads me to a detached garage with an apartment above it. I laugh, thinking of my car packed to the brim with gear. "Not exactly. The rest is still in the car. You know what they say. Always be prepared." She unlocks the door with a key from her rainbow keychain and we step inside. Light floods in through windows on 3 sides, illuminating a cozy studio apartment. "Oh," I breathe, "this is perfect." "Clara fixed it up last spring," Hazel says, opening a window to let in a breeze that carries the scent of pine and distant wood smoke. "Bathroom's through there, Wi-Fi passwords on the fridge. Clara said you'd need that for your videos." "Thank you. I couldn't have found a better place to stay while I explore." Speaking of exploring, Hazel says, settling onto a bar stool, "Tell me more about these videos you're making." "Nothing fancy yet. I'm trying to showcase hidden gems. Places that haven't been overrun by tourism but deserve to be appreciated." I gaze out at the mountains rising behind the town. "Every place has its own heartbeat, you know?" I try to capture that. "A storyteller," Hazel nods approvingly. "My main goal while I'm here is to film Lookout Point. From my research, it seems to be the crown jewel of the area. Lookout Point is special. But it's not an easy hike, especially for someone unfamiliar with our trails. And since that storm last month washed out part of the main path, even some locals are avoiding it." My heart sinks. I'd built my whole Juniper Falls segment around showcasing that vista. Is there any way to get there safely? "Oh, there's always a way," Hazel says, her bracelets jingling. "But you'll need a guide. Someone who knows these mountains like they know their own heartbeat." She pauses, and that mysterious twinkle returns. "Someone like Hunter Rhodes." The name hangs in the air between us, weighted with something I can't quite identify. "Hunter Rhodes," I repeat. "Is he a local guide?" "The best. Used to be with the fire department, but these days he mostly keeps to himself up on the mountain." She reaches into her pocket and pulls out a small notepad, scribbling something on it. He's not much for small talk, mind you. But if finding your way to Lookout Point is what you need, Hunter's your man. She tears off the paper and hands it to me. Call him tomorrow, she advises. Best to catch him early. And tell him Hazel insisted. She winks. He can't say no to me. I was his third-grade teacher, and in this town, that creates a lifelong obligation. As she moves toward the door, she turns back. You know, Quinn, some people come to Juniper Falls just passing through. But the mountains have a way of keeping those who need them most. I shift my weight from one foot to the other at the trailhead, checking the time on my phone. 7:58 a.m. He's not late. I'm early. The parking area is empty except for my car and a rugged dark blue Ford with mud splattered along its sides. I called the number Hazel gave me yesterday, half expecting to leave a voicemail. Instead, a deep voice answered on the second ring. The conversation was brief to the point of being surgical. Yes, he could take me to Lookout Point. Yes, tomorrow morning was fine. When I mentioned I'd be filming, there was a pause so long I thought the call had dropped. Is that a problem? I'd asked. Just keep up, he'd replied before hanging up. A twig snaps behind me, and I whirl around to find myself staring at a broad chest covered in a faded green Henley. My gaze travels up to meet storm gray eyes under dark brows, set in a face that seems carved from the same rugged material as the mountains themselves. Oh. I stumble back. Hi. You must be Hunter. He nods once, his expression entirely unreadable. Close up, he's even taller than I expected, with shoulders that block out the morning sun. His dark hair is pushed back from his forehead, slightly too long, like he hasn't bothered to cut it in months. I'm Quinn, I say, sticking out my hand. Thank you so much for agreeing to guide me today. He glances at my outstretched hand, then briefly takes it. Hazel didn't give me much choice. His voice is deep and a little rough, like he doesn't use it often. Something about it sends a tiny shiver down my spine. Trails this way, he says, turning without waiting for a response. 4 miles to the point. Terrain gets rough after the first 2. I hurry after him, mentally cursing his long strides. I read that the view is incredible. I'm hoping to capture it in different light. Maybe mid-morning and during golden hour, if possible. Hunter keeps walking, ducking under a low-hanging branch without bothering to hold it for me. So, I continue, undeterred, have you lived in Juniper Falls long? Hazel said you used to be a firefighter? Born here, he says after a beat. And that was a long time ago. We hike in silence for the next 20 minutes. Despite his standoffishness, I can't help noticing how confidently he moves through the forest. While I pick my way carefully over tree roots, he walks with the ease of someone traveling through their own living room. Those look ominous, I say, breaking the silence as I spot dark clouds gathering over the distant peaks. Rain by noon, he confirms, glancing up. We'll be fine if we keep moving. The trail begins to climb more steeply, and we emerge onto a rocky section that affords us our first real view of the valley below. Wow, I breathe, reaching for my camera. This is already incredible. This isn't the point, Hunter says. Just a preview. I know. But sometimes the journey is as worth capturing as the destination. He frowns slightly. Your video thing. What's it for? My channel, I explain. I travel to places that aren't Instagram famous yet but deserve to be appreciated. I try to show the authentic experience. His frown deepens. So you can draw crowds to quiet places. Something in his tone makes my spine stiffen. I'm not trying to turn anywhere into a tourist trap. I highlight responsible travel, respect for nature. Still bringing outsiders to places that don't need them, he says flatly. I stop walking and turn to face him. Is that why you've been looking at me like I'm carrying the plague? You think I'm going to ruin your precious mountain? I think people who aren't from here don't understand what they're disturbing. You don't know anything about me, I say, surprising myself with the edge in my voice. A distant rumble of thunder breaks our standoff. Hunter glances up. We need to keep moving. Storm's coming faster than I thought. The next mile passes in tense silence. The wind picks up, carrying a distinct chill. The thunder grows louder, no longer just distant rumblings but sharp cracks that echo through the mountains. We're not going to make it to the point, are we? I finally ask as the first fat raindrops begin to fall. No. Not today. He turns to look at me, something like concern finally cracking through his stoic exterior. My cabin's about half a mile east. We need to get there before this hits full force. As if in response, the sky opens up, rain suddenly pouring down in sheets. Within seconds, I'm drenched. This way, Hunter calls over the roar of the rain, veering off the main trail. Stay close. The trail becomes slippery almost instantly. I focus intently on every step, one hand clutching my camera bag protectively. Lightning flashes bright enough to leave purple spots in my vision. Through the curtain of rain, I make out the dark shape of a cabin nestled among the trees. Not some tiny one-room structure but a proper home, with a covered porch. Hunter bounds up the steps and unlocks the door, holding it open for me. Hurry. I stumble inside, dripping water onto a wooden floor. The cabin is shadowy in the storm-darkened daylight, but I can make out sturdy furniture, walls lined with bookshelves, and a stone fireplace. Hunter flicks a switch, and warm light floods the space. He moves with purpose, pulling a towel from a nearby closet and tossing it to me. Dry off, he says, shrugging out of his own soaked jacket. I wrap the towel around my shoulders, finally allowing myself to shiver. Is it always like this? The weather changing so fast? Hunter moves to the fireplace, kneeling to arrange kindling and logs. This time of year? Yes. Mountain storms can build in minutes. He strikes a match, and the kindling catches immediately. Today's worse than usual, though. As he works on building the fire, I take in the unexpectedly tidy cabin. The furniture is simple but well made, the walls largely unadorned except for a few framed maps and what looks like a firefighter's axe mounted near the door. He glances at my dripping clothes. Bathroom's down the hall if you want to change. But I'm guessing you didn't bring extra clothes for a day hike. I grimace. Not my finest planning moment. To my surprise, his expression softens slightly. Not your fault. Storm wasn't supposed to hit until tonight. He disappears into what I assume is a bedroom, returning with a stack of folded clothes. These will be too big, but they're dry. Our fingers brush as he hands me the clothes, and despite the chill, I feel warmth spread across my cheeks. Thank you. As I walk down the hallway clutching his clothes, I catch my reflection in a small mirror. My hair is plastered to my head, mascara smudged, cheeks flushed from cold and something else I don't want to examine too closely. I'm stranded in a remote cabin with a gruff, handsome mountain man during a thunderstorm, like I've somehow stumbled into the pages of a romance novel. It should be terrifying.
Chapter 2. Hunter. She's in my space. The thought loops through my mind as I stoke the fire. Behind me, Quinn Harper is a flurry of movement and sound, disrupting years of carefully cultivated silence. These are perfect, thank you, she says, padding back into the main room in my old flannel shirt and sweatpants rolled multiple times at the waist and ankles. I hum my wet clothes over the shower rod. I hope that's okay? I nod once, not trusting myself to speak. Something about seeing her in my clothes has knocked me off center. Your cabin is amazing, she continues, wandering around the room. Did you build it yourself? Renovated, I say, watching as she trails her fingers along my bookshelf. It was my grandfather's hunting cabin. Oh, wait, you have the complete works of Mary Oliver? She pulls out the worn volume of poetry, looking surprised. I wouldn't have pegged you as a poetry guy. I don't tell her that I haven't opened that book in 3 years, that it was Ellie who loved Oliver's nature poems. There's coffee in the kitchen. Perfect timing. I've got something to contribute. She digs into her pack, producing 2 slightly squashed granola bars. Tada! Sustenance. They're homemade. The woman who runs the copper kettle gave them to me yesterday. Sarah, I say, the name feeling strange in my mouth. It's been months since I've spoken to anyone from town besides Hazel. Yes. She's wonderful. She holds one out to me. Oatmeal cranberry. Want one? I hesitate, then take it, our fingers brushing briefly. Thanks. I should be thanking you. For the shelter, the clothes, the fire. She gestures around. For not leaving me on the mountain to be washed away in the flood. A clap of thunder punctuates her words, making her jump. I'm not a monster, I say, more sharply than I intended. Just because I don't want people turning these mountains into a playground doesn't mean I'd leave someone in danger. She studies me for a moment. You really do care about this place, don't you? The question catches me off guard. Most people write me off as antisocial, damaged, broken. They don't look deeper. It's my home, I say finally, moving to pour coffee into 2 mugs. She sits on the edge of my couch, tucking her legs beneath her. The sight is jarring. No one has sat there but me since I moved in. I promise my channel isn't about exploiting places. It's about telling their stories, about honoring what makes them special. Why do you do it? I ask before I can stop myself. Travel around, film places, move on. What's the point? A shadow flickers across her face. I guess I'm looking for somewhere that feels right. Somewhere that could be. She trails off, shrugging. More than just a stop on the way to somewhere else. Her raw honesty resonates in a place I thought had gone numb years ago. What about you? She asks. How does someone go from firefighter to mountain hermit? I'm not a hermit, I say automatically. I guide tourists 3 times a week. And the rest of the time? I shrug. I prefer the quiet. Another crack of thunder rattles the windows, and the rain intensifies. Quinn glances toward the sound, concern crossing her face. We're safe here, I say, surprising myself with the need to reassure her. How long do you think it'll last? I check the radar on my phone. Several hours at least. Looks like it's stalled over the valley. Oh. She bites her lip. I guess we're stuck with each other, then. The thought should make me want to retreat, to create distance. Instead, I find myself asking, are you hungry? I could make something. Her eyes light up. Really? That would be amazing. Can I help? You can chop vegetables if you want. We work side by side in an oddly comfortable silence, broken only by the sound of the knife against the board and the rain outside. So what are we making? She asks eventually. Frittata. Simple but filling. Perfect rainy day food, she says with a small smile. I didn't expect you to be such a domestic mountain man. I like to eat, I say simply. Had to learn to cook. Well, I'm excited to taste the results. She slides the chopped vegetables toward me. My own culinary skills are limited to microwaving and calling for takeout. City habits, I say, sautéing the vegetables in an iron skillet. She laughs, a bright sound that seems to warm the room. Though I'm originally from a small town in Oregon. It's just that my life now is always on the move. Hard to cook in hotel rooms and Airbnbs. Must get lonely, I say before I can catch myself. She looks up, clearly surprised. Yeah, she says softly. Sometimes it does. Our eyes meet over the sizzling skillet, and for a moment, I forget why I need to keep my distance. Then the power flickers, breaking the moment. That happens during storms, I explain, turning back to the stove. Backup generator will kick in if it goes out completely. She nods. You're prepared for everything, aren't you? Try to be, I say, pouring beaten eggs over the vegetables. It's been my way of life since Ellie died. Anticipate every danger, control every variable, leave nothing to chance.
Chapter 3. Quinn. Morning light filters through the windows, painting golden stripes across the cabin floor. I blink awake slowly, momentarily disoriented before remembering. The storm. The cabin. Hunter. I sit up on the couch where I spent the night, wrapped in a thick quilt that smells of pine and wood smoke. The cabin is quiet except for soft sounds from the kitchen. Following the scent of fresh coffee, I find Hunter at the counter. "Morning," I say, my voice still rough with sleep. He turns, and for a fleeting moment, something unguarded crosses his face before his usual stoic expression returns. "Storm's past," he says, nodding toward the window. Outside, the world is washed clean, trees glistening with raindrops that catch the morning sun like tiny prisms. The sky is the particular intense blue that only follows a storm. It's beautiful, I breathe. Like everything's been reset. Hunter hands me a mug of coffee. "Thought we could try for Lookout Point again," he says. "If you still want to see it." I look up, surprised by the offer. "Really? After yesterday's adventure?" The corner of his mouth twitches, almost a smile. "Trail will be muddy. But the view after rain." He trails off. "Worth it." "I'd love that." "Your clothes are in the dryer," he says. "Put them in when I got up." The thought of him handling my clothes while I slept sends warmth to my cheeks. "Thank you. That was thoughtful." He shrugs, uncomfortable with the gratitude. "Figured you wouldn't want to hike in sweatpants." By the time we set out, the sun is climbing steadily, burning off the last wisps of mist clinging to the treetops. The forest feels different today, and something has shifted between us. The tense silence of yesterday has given way to something almost companionable. "How much farther?" I ask as we navigate around a section of trail that's become a small stream. "Half-mile," he says, extending his hand to help me across a slippery stretch. His palm is warm and calloused against mine. "You're doing well." The simple compliment shouldn't make my heart flutter, but it does. "Thanks. I'm tougher than I look." "Never doubted it," he says, so low I almost miss it. The trail steepens for the final stretch. Hunter moves through the forest with an effortless grace. Each step is deliberate, his body instinctively finding the easiest path. "This way," he says, pausing at a fork. Instead of taking the obvious path, he heads toward what looks like a wall of dense foliage. When I hesitate, he turns back. "Trust me." 2 words that shouldn't carry so much weight. But they do. I follow him through a narrow gap in the vegetation. And then, suddenly, the world opens up. We're standing on a broad rocky outcropping that juts over the valley. The view is staggering. Mountains roll away in every direction, their slopes a patchwork of autumn colors still glistening from the rain. Far below, Juniper Falls nestles in the valley like a tiny model village. "Oh," is all I can manage, too overwhelmed for proper words. Hunter stands a few feet away, watching my reaction. "Worth the climb?" "Worth getting caught in a storm for," I say honestly. "This is." I don't even know how to describe it. I pull out my camera, but pause before lifting it. "I'll move out of your shot," Hunter says, stepping back. "No," I say quickly. "You belong in this frame." The words come out before I can think better of him. His brow furrows slightly, but he doesn't retreat. Instead, he moves to the edge, his profile silhouetted against the endless sky. Without the guardedness that usually tightens his features, he looks younger, more at peace. I capture the moment. Not because it will make good content, but because I want to remember it exactly as it is. "Do you come up here often?" I ask, lowering the camera. He nods. "When I need perspective." I can see why. I join him at the edge. It makes everything else seem small, doesn't it? That's part of it. He glances at me. But it's also a reminder. Of what? He gestures toward the mountains. That we're just passing through. All of this was here long before us, will be here long after. It's the most I've heard him say at once, and there's something in his voice that makes me wonder what problems he's brought to this precipice. "I think that's what I'm looking for," I admit softly. "When I travel." That sense of being part of something bigger. He studies me for a long moment. And do you find it? Glimpses, I say. Moments. Like this one. A hawk cries somewhere above us. Hunter tips his head back to track its flight, and I find myself studying the line of his jaw, the way the sun catches in his hair. We should head back, he says eventually. Hunter? Thank you for sharing this with me. You're welcome, Quinn. My name in his mouth sounds warmer, more deliberate. The hike down is mostly quiet. I notice how Hunter occasionally slows his pace to match mine, how he stops to point out wildflowers that survived the storm, a patch of moss so green it seems to glow. As we near the trailhead, I slow down, reluctant to end this unexpected interlude. Will you be okay getting back to town? He asks as we reach the parking area. Yes, I'll be fine. I fiddle with my camera strap, suddenly awkward. Today was amazing. I'd love to see more places like this. Spots that aren't in the tourist brochures. He studies me for a moment, as if weighing something in his mind. There's a ridge east of here. Best place to watch the sunrise over the valley. I'd like that, I say. That almost smile flickers across his face again. Tomorrow, he says. 5 a.m. I'll meet you here. 5? I repeat, trying not to sound dismayed. As in, 5 in the morning? Sunrise waits for no one, he says, and I could swear there's a hint of teasing in his voice. Even influencers. Content creator, I correct him. And I'll be here. The door to Hazel's home swings open before I have a chance to knock. She stands there in a teal cardigan with embroidered flowers, silver hair caught up in a loose bun, charm bracelets jangling. There you are. I was beginning to wonder if you'd gotten lost on the mountain. Her eyes sweep over me. Come in. I just put the kettle on. I follow her into a living room that feels like walking into the heart of a kaleidoscope, pillows in jewel tones, shelves of colorful pottery, walls hung with vibrant quilts. This place is incredible, I say, sinking into an overstuffed armchair. I've never seen the appeal of beige. She sets out teacups painted with wildflowers. Now, tell me about your adventure. Did you make it to Lookout Point? We did, this morning. The storm kept us from reaching it yesterday. One silver eyebrow arches. You got caught in that mess? We had to take shelter at Hunter's cabin. I busy myself with stirring honey into my tea. He was hospitable. Was he now? There's a note in her voice I can't quite decipher. He made me dinner, I add, not sure why I feel compelled to defend him. And lent me dry clothes. Hazel studies me over the rim of her teacup. I've known that boy since he was making paper airplanes in my third-grade classroom. Hospitable isn't the word most people in town would use to describe him these days. She pauses. Not for the last 3 years, anyway. The quiet that follows feels weighted. What happened 3 years ago? I finally ask. Hazel sets her cup down. It's not really my story to tell, dear. She smooths her skirt. But Hunter wasn't always the solitary figure you met. He used to be the first one to volunteer when anyone needed help, always at community events, coaching Little League in the summer. And now? Now he's a ghost. She says it simply, without judgment. He comes down the mountain for supplies once a week, guides tourists because he needs the income, but otherwise. She trails off. Most people around here have given up trying to draw him back. Most people, but not you, I observe. A smile flickers across her face. I've never been very good at giving up on people I believe in. As she refills my cup, I notice a photograph on the mantel. A group in matching shirts standing in front of the community center. One of them is unmistakably Hunter, his smile reaching his eyes in a way I haven't seen in person. Hazel follows my gaze. That was from the summer festival 4 years ago. Hunter organized the firefighters' dunk tank that raised money for new playground equipment. The man in that photo seems worlds away from the guarded guide who picked his way through the forest beside me. He seems to really care about the mountains, I say carefully. Oh yes. That was true even before. Hazel sets her empty cup aside. Some people turn to faith when tragedy strikes. Some to family or friends. Hunter turned to the mountains. She looks at me directly. They haven't failed him yet. The implication hangs in the air. Other things, or people, have. I should get going, I say, suddenly feeling like I've been peeking into a book I wasn't given permission to read. I need to edit today's footage. Hazel walks me to the door, her hand light on my arm. Hunter doesn't let many people see his mountain, she says. Not the real heart of it. The weight of her words follows me back to Clara's garage apartment. As the footage uploads, I find myself thinking about the contrast between the hunter in that photograph and the man who stood silhouetted against the endless sky. When the files finish transferring, I begin to sort through them. The mountains stretching to the horizon. A hawk circling lazily. Raindrops clinging to red leaves. And then I come to the clip of Hunter at the edge of the outcropping. He's not looking at the camera. He stands with his face tilted slightly toward the sun, eyes scanning the valleys below. There's something in his posture that speaks of belonging. Like he's not just standing on the mountain, but is somehow part of it. I let the clip play, watching the way the light catches in his dark hair, how his profile is sharp against the soft blues and greens. In this unguarded moment, the hardness that usually defines his features has melted away. He doesn't even realize he's beautiful, I whisper to the empty room, my finger hovering over the keyboard. I should delete this clip. It's not what my subscribers come to my channel for.
Chapter 4. Hunter. The sky is beginning to lighten when I pull into the trailhead parking area. 4:45 in the morning, and I'm already on my second cup of coffee. I kill the engine and sit for a moment in the darkness, second-guessing myself. I shouldn't have invited her here. Shouldn't be showing her this place. Shouldn't be thinking about her smile, her questions, the way she looks at these mountains with eyes that actually see. Headlights sweep across the trees as another vehicle approaches. I recognize her car as it pulls in beside my truck. For a moment, I consider starting my engine again and driving away. Then she steps out, and something shifts in my chest. Quinn is wrapped in layers against the chill. Despite the early hour, her eyes are bright and alert as she spots me and waves. "Morning," she says, approaching my window. "Please tell me that's coffee I smell." I hold up my thermos. "Made extra. You're officially my favorite person today." She takes the thermos when I offer it, her fingers brushing mine in the process. I can't believe I'm voluntarily awake before 5, but the promise of a spectacular sunrise was too tempting to pass up. It'll be worth it. I step out of the truck, feeling oddly nervous, like this is something more significant than just a hike. "Brought an extra headlamp for you. Trail steep in parts." "Thanks." She takes it, adjusting the strap around her head. The small beam illuminates her face, catching the curve of her smile. "How far are we going?" "Mile and a half. We need to be at the viewpoint before the sun breaks the ridge." "Lead the way, mountain man." We set off in the blue-black darkness, our headlamps carving twin paths through the shadows. The forest feels different at this hour. It's quieter, more secretive, the night creatures retiring as dawn approaches. Our boots crunch softly on the trail, the rhythm of our breathing the only other sound. "Do you do this often?" Quinn asks after we've been walking for about 10 minutes. "Get up before dawn to watch the sunrise?" "Sometimes." In truth, I haven't done this in years. Not since Ellie. But I don't tell Quinn that. She falls silent again, respecting the hush of the forest in a way I've noticed about her. For someone who can fill silences so easily with chatter, she also knows when to be still. It's an unexpected quality that draws me to her despite all my better instincts. The trail grows steeper, requiring more concentration. Quinn keeps pace without complaint, though I can hear her breathing quicken with exertion. Occasionally our shoulders brush in the narrow sections, each contact sending a jolt of awareness through me. It's getting lighter, she observes as we round a bend in the trail. The darkness has indeed softened to a deep blue, the shapes of trees becoming more distinct against the sky. We're close, I tell her, gesturing ahead where the trail splits. This way. We leave the main path, following a less obvious route that climbs sharply upward. The stones are slick with dew, treacherous in the half-light. Careful here, I warn, but even as the words leave my mouth, Quinn's foot slips on a wet rock. She pitches forward with a small sound of surprise. I turn and catch her against my chest, one arm wrapping instinctively around her waist. For a moment we're frozen there, her hands gripping my shoulders, faces close enough that I can see the tiny flecks of gold in her hazel eyes, even in this dim light. Sorry, she whispers, her breath warm against my cheek. You're doing fine, I manage, my voice rougher than I intend. I'm acutely aware of her warmth against me, the subtle scent of her shampoo, the way her hands haven't moved from my shoulders even though she's steady now. Thanks for the catch. She smiles up at me, neither of us immediately moving away. I carefully set her back on her feet, letting my hands fall away. Watch your step, I say, turning back to the trail. We continue upward, and the sky continues to lighten, revealing more of the world with each passing minute. Finally, we emerge onto a rocky outcropping that juts out from the eastern face of the mountain. The view opens before us. Valley after valley stretch toward the horizon, where the first hint of orange is just beginning to touch the sky. Oh, Quinn breathes, moving to stand at the edge. This is magnificent. Wait, I say, settling on a flat rock. It gets better. She joins me, close enough that our shoulders touch. Neither of us moves away. How did you find this place? She asks, her voice hushed as if she's in a cathedral. My father brought me here when I was 10. The admission slips out before I can stop it. Said some things are worth getting up early for. She glances at me, surprise flickering across her face. It's the first personal detail I've willingly shared. He was right, she says simply. We lapse into silence as the horizon begins to glow brighter. Gold bleeds into the blue, followed by streaks of pink and lavender. The valleys below are still shrouded in shadow, but the distant peaks catch the first rays, lighting up like beacons one by one. Quinn's hand finds mine on the rock between us, her fingers sliding over my palm with gentle pressure. I should pull away. Should maintain the distance I've carefully preserved for years. Instead, I turn my hand over, letting her fingers intertwine with mine. I've seen a lot of sunrises, she says softly, her eyes on the horizon. But never one like this. As the sun finally crests the distant ridge, the world transforms. Light pours across the landscape like liquid gold, revealing 1,000 shades of green in the forests below, turning the morning mist in the valleys into glowing silver. I watch Quinn's face as she takes it all in, her expression open with wonder. The sunrise paints her skin with warm light, catches in her hair, reflects in her eyes. And suddenly I'm not watching the horizon anymore. I'm watching her. It's perfect, she whispers, turning to find me already looking at her. Something passes between us in that moment. Something I can't name and am afraid to examine too closely. Her hand tightens in mine, and for a heartbeat, I allow myself to imagine what it would be like to close the distance between us. Instead, I look back to the sunrise. Worth getting up for? Worth everything, she says, and I hear the smile in her voice. She suddenly sits up straighter. Oh! I almost forgot why I'm here. She reaches for her backpack, pulling out her camera and a small tripod. My viewers would never forgive me if I missed capturing this. I watch her set up quickly with practiced movements, surprised by my own disappointment at the interruption. Do you mind? She asks, noticing my expression. I know it breaks the moment, but this is literally perfect content for my channel. Go ahead, I say, releasing her hand and immediately missing its warmth. It's what you came for. She pauses, her camera half raised. Not the only thing, she says softly before turning to her work. She works quietly, moving around the outcropping to capture different angles. I watch her with a strange mixture of emotions I haven't felt in years. Admiration, curiosity, and a pull I don't want to acknowledge. The light here is incredible, she says, reviewing something on her camera screen. These will be perfect for the channel. As the sun climbs higher, changing the quality of light, she powers down her camera and returns to sit beside me on the rock. All done? I ask. She nods. Got what I needed for the video. But honestly. She looks out at the view, a soft smile playing on her lips. Sometimes I wish I could experience a moment without thinking about how to capture it. There's something lost in always being behind the lens. The admission catches me off guard. Why do you do it then? She considers this, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. I guess because sharing beautiful places makes them feel more real somehow. Or maybe because if I didn't have the camera as a reason to keep moving, I might stop. And then I'd have to figure out what comes next. I don't know what to say to that, so I just nod. Can I ask you something? She looks at me with those soulful eyes of hers. You can ask, I reply, not promising an answer. A small smile touches her lips at my caution. What happened to you, Hunter Rhodes? What made you retreat to your mountain? The question is gentle but direct, catching me unprepared. I look away, back to the sunrise-washed valleys. What makes you think something happened? Hazel mentioned you used to be different. More involved in town. And there's something in the way you keep everyone at arm's length. She trails off, shrugging. You don't have to tell me. For a moment, I consider brushing her off with the vague non-answers I've perfected over the years. But something about this place, this moment, makes the truth rise to my lips. I lost someone, I say, the words feeling rusty from disuse. 3 years ago. Understanding dawns in her eyes. I'm sorry, she says simply. It was my fault, I add, not sure why I'm continuing except that the weight of those words has been pressing on me for so long. Quinn doesn't offer empty platitudes or tell me it wasn't my fault. She just reaches for my hand again, her fingers warm against my chilled skin. That's why you left the fire department. It's not a question, but I nod anyway, grateful she doesn't push for details I'm not ready to share. Thank you for telling me, she finally says. We should head back, I say. She nods, gathering her gear. Hunter? I pause, waiting. I'd like to do this again sometime. If you're willing. Against all my better judgment, I find myself nodding. There's a waterfall on the north ridge. Best in the late afternoon light. Her smile is like the sunrise breaking over the horizon again. It's a date.
Chapter 5. Quinn. This is probably a terrible idea, I mutter as I navigate the winding mountain road. The paper bag on my passenger seat fills the car with the scent of cinnamon and vanilla, still warm from Rising Hearts Bakery. The woman behind the counter, Leah, according to her name tag, had smiled knowingly when I'd asked for directions to Hunter's cabin. Taking Hunter Rhodes some treats, she'd said, placing an extra muffin in the bag. He likes the blueberry ones. On the house. It's only 2:30. We weren't supposed to meet at the trailhead until 4 for our waterfall hike, but something compelled me to come early, to see him in his space again. I parked beside his truck and grabbed the bakery bag, steeling my nerves. The wooden steps creak beneath my feet as I approach the front door and knock. Nothing. I know he's home. His truck is here, and smoke rises faintly from the chimney. I knock again, shifting my weight from one foot to the other. Just as I'm considering leaving the bag on the doorstep, I hear movement inside. The door opens a crack, revealing Hunter's guarded expression. Quinn. He says my name like he's confirming I'm real. Surprise? I offer, lifting the bag. I brought muffins from Rising Hearts. Leah says you like the blueberry ones. He stares at me for a long moment, his hand still gripping the door like he hasn't decided whether to open it wider or close it in my face. Then, almost imperceptibly, his shoulders relax. You drove all the way up here to bring me muffins? Well, when you put it that way, it sounds ridiculous, I say, feeling heat rise to my cheeks. I thought maybe you'd like a snack before our hike. Another beat of silence, long enough that I'm about to apologize and retreat, when he finally steps back, opening the door wider. "Coffee's fresh," he says, which I take as an invitation. Morning sun streams through the eastern windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. I notice small details I missed during my last visit: a bookshelf filled with worn paperbacks, hiking maps tacked to one wall, a guitar propped in the corner. "I didn't know you played," I say, nodding toward the instrument. "Used to," is all he offers, moving to the kitchen area. I set the bakery bag on the counter and try not to feel like an intruder. As I glance around, something catches my eye. There's a picture frame on a high shelf that I hadn't noticed before. It's lying face down, the only thing in the otherwise tidy cabin that seems out of place. I quickly look away, not wanting to pry, but the image of that overturned frame lodges in my mind. Someone he lost. Someone whose face he can't bear to see every day, but can't quite put away either. "Blueberry for you," I say, unpacking the muffins. "And maple pecan for me." Leah says they're her specialty. Hunter turns back with 2 steaming mugs, his expression still cautious but not unwelcoming. Leah knows her baking. We sit at the small dining table, the morning quiet wrapping around us. I take a bite of my muffin, searching for something to say that won't disrupt this fragile peace. The muffins were an excuse, I admit finally. "I wanted to thank you for yesterday." He studies me over the rim of his mug, his gray eyes impossible to read. "You didn't need to bring muffins for that." "I know." I meet his gaze steadily. "I wanted to." Outside, a jay calls harshly, breaking the moment. Hunter turns to look out the window, his profile outlined against the morning light. "I should go," I say reluctantly. "Let you get ready for our hike." "You're not intruding," he says, the words coming out slightly rough. He clears his throat. "But I do need to finish gathering some gear." "Of course." I stand, gathering the bakery bag. "I'll leave these with you." He hesitates, then says, "We could head to the waterfall directly from here, if you want. Save you driving back to town just to meet at the trailhead." The offer surprises me. "Are you sure?" He nods. "There's a path that connects to the main trail about a mile in. Shorter this way, actually." "That would be great," I say, trying not to sound too eager. "I brought my hiking gear, just in case." I gesture toward my car. "I'll be ready in 15 minutes, he says. As he gathers his equipment, I step outside onto the porch, breathing in the mountain air. Through the window, I can see him moving around the cabin, efficient and purposeful. My eyes drift back to that overturned frame, and I wonder about the face hidden from view, the memory too painful to look at but too important to put away. Hunter moves ahead on the trail with his usual quiet confidence, occasionally pausing to point out something I might have missed. Things like a cluster of late-blooming wildflowers or the distinctive scratches of a bear on a tree trunk. "You can hear it now," he says, stopping to let me catch up. "The waterfall." I tilt my head and catch it. There's a distant rushing sound, growing more distinct with each step. "How much farther?" "Quarter mile," he says. Light's getting perfect. The sun has begun its descent, golden rays slanting through the trees at an angle that transforms the ordinary forest into something ethereal. I've chased this kind of light across a dozen states, but something about this moment, with this particular man walking slightly ahead of me, feels uniquely precious. "Careful here," Hunter says, extending his hand as we navigate a steep section. His fingers close around mine, warm and steady, and I find myself reluctant to let go when we reach level ground. He doesn't pull away immediately either. For a moment we stand connected by that simple touch, both pretending to admire the view. The sound of rushing water grows louder as the trees begin to thin. Hunter releases my hand to push aside a curtain of branches, then steps back to let me through first. When I step through, I understand why. The waterfall isn't massive, perhaps 30 feet from top to bottom, but it's perfect in its proportions. Water cascades over dark stones worn smooth by centuries of flow, splashing into a clear pool below. The late afternoon sun hits the spray just right, creating a rainbow that shimmers across the surface. "Hunter," I breathe, "it's incredible." "Worth the hike?" he asks, coming to stand beside me. "Worth everything." I set up my camera, but I know it won't capture the fullness of this experience. The way the mist cools my skin, the earthy scent of moss and stone, the peculiar acoustics that somehow allow both thunderous splash and delicate trickle to be heard simultaneously. Once I've captured enough footage, I join him at the edge of the pool. We sit on a sun-warmed rock, close enough that our shoulders occasionally brush. As the sun dips lower, shadows lengthen across the clearing. The temperature drops rapidly, and I suppress a shiver, but Hunter notices. "Cold?" he asks. "A little," I admit. "The mist from the falls." Before I can finish, he's shrugging out of his jacket. It's a well-worn canvas affair that looks like it's seen a decade of mountain weather. He drapes it over my shoulders, the weight of it substantial and immediately warming. "Thanks," I say, slipping my arms into the too long sleeves. "Won't you be cold?" He shakes his head. "Used to it." We watch and I take a series of shots in the changing light. The sun slips behind the ridge, though daylight still illuminates the clearing. The waterfall takes on new colors as shadows claim more territory. "We should start back soon," Hunter says eventually. "Don't want to navigate that trail in the dark." I nod, reluctant but understanding. We gather our things, my camera, the small pack he brought. As I turn to take one last look at the waterfall, my hand brushes against his. An accidental touch, the slightest contact of skin against skin. But unlike all the other times we've touched, neither of us pulls away. His fingers catch mine, tentative at first, then more certain. I look down at our hands, his larger, tanned and calloused, mine smaller, with a fading sunburn across the knuckles. Different, yet somehow fitting together with a rightness that steals my breath. Slowly, I raise my eyes to his. What I see there makes my heart stutter. The wall behind his gaze has dropped. In its place is something raw and honest and uncertain. A question, an invitation, a leap of faith. "Quinn," he says, my name rough in his throat. I move toward him, or maybe he moves toward me. I'm not sure who closes the distance. All I know is that one moment we're standing a breath apart, and the next his lips are on mine. The kiss is gentle at first, careful and questioning. His lips are surprisingly soft against mine, the slight roughness of his beard creating a delicious contrast against my skin. I catch the scent of him, stronger now with our bodies so close, pine and earth and the lingering sweetness of the blueberry muffin from earlier. My hand finds his shoulder, feeling the solid warmth of him through his flannel shirt. His free hand comes to rest lightly at my waist, as if he's afraid I might startle and run. But running is the last thing on my mind. The kiss deepens, transforming from a question into a conversation. I taste coffee and wildness on his lips, feel the controlled strength in the way he holds me. Like I'm something precious, something that might break if handled too roughly. A small sound escapes me, somewhere between a sigh and a murmur, and I feel something shift in him. The hand at my waist tightens just slightly, drawing me closer. His other hand releases mine to slide into my hair, cradling the back of my head with a tenderness that makes my heart ache. I lean into him, my arms circling his neck, feeling the solid reality of him against me. For a man who speaks so little, Hunter communicates with devastating eloquence through touch. Each subtle movement tells a story. The gentle pressure of his fingers against my scalp. The careful way he angles his head to deepen the kiss. And the almost imperceptible tremor I feel in his hands that tells me this matters, that I matter. The world narrows to just this. The soft sound of our breathing, the beating of my heart against his chest, the taste and scent and feel of him surrounding me. Time stretches and compresses all at once, making the moment feel both endless and fleeting. When we finally part, it's only by inches. He rests his forehead against mine, eyes closed, breath uneven. I keep my hands on his shoulders, unwilling to break the connection. "I didn't plan that," he says softly, voice rougher than usual. "I'm glad it happened anyway," I whisper back.
Chapter 6. Hunter. The Eastern Ridge Trail needs clearing after the last storm. It's a simple task. Identify hazards, remove fallen branches, and check for erosion. I've done it 100 times, could practically navigate it blindfolded. Yet I've been staring at the same fallen pine for 10 minutes. Because this is where Quinn stopped to photograph a cluster of mushrooms, her camera trained on the forest floor while sunshine caught in her hair. This is where she asked about the different bird calls, her head tilted in concentration as I pointed out the difference between a thrush and a warbler. This is where, 3 days ago, my world tilted on its axis. I shake my head and force myself to focus on the task at hand. The fallen pine isn't large, but it's blocking the trail completely. I rev the chainsaw and make quick work of it, the familiar physical labor usually enough to quiet my mind. Every trail, every overlook, every stream crossing is now marked with her presence. 3 days have passed since that kiss. 3 days of throwing myself into work, of avoiding the cabin where she sat at my table, of taking the hardest, most remote trails where there's no chance of running into her. 3 days of failing to forget the taste of her. By mid-afternoon, I've cleared half the trail and my supplies are running low. I need to restock. Normally, I'd put it off another week, make do with what I have to avoid going into town. But today, the walls of the forest feel like they're closing in. Every tree, every rock, every view reminds me of her. Maybe town, with its noise and people and distractions, will give me the distance I need to get my head straight. I pack up my gear and head back to the cabin to clean up. In the shower, I try to wash away more than just dirt and sweat. Try to rinse away the memory of her fingers in my hair, the scent of her that somehow still clings to the jacket I draped over her shoulders. It doesn't work. The drive into Juniper Falls takes exactly 18 minutes. I know because I count each one, steeling myself for the inevitable interactions ahead. The monthly supply run is always an exercise in endurance. I hate the pitying looks, the too careful conversations, the weight of being the town's resident tragedy. Main Street is busier than usual for a weekday. The autumn colors are at their peak, drawing leaf peepers and photographers. I park behind Brooks' General Store rather than in front, a habit formed from wanting to avoid unnecessary encounters. The back entrance leads directly to the storeroom, where Hale Brooks is taking inventory. He looks up in surprise. "Hunter. Wasn't expecting you till next week." "Ran low on some things," I mutter, uncomfortable with his scrutiny. Hale nods, knowing better than to press. "New shipment of that coffee you like just came in. Tessa made fresh sourdough this morning too." I nod my thanks and head into the main store, grabbing a basket and methodically working through my mental list. Coffee. Flour. Canned goods. Batteries. As always, I stick to the outer aisles, avoiding the center of the store where most people congregate. It works until I reach the register, where Leah from Rising Hearts Bakery is chatting with the cashier. Her eyes light with recognition when she spots me. "Hunter Rhodes," she says with a warmth I don't deserve. "I was just talking about you yesterday. Those muffins I sent up with Quinn must have worked some magic." She's been practically glowing ever since. I manage a non-committal sound that Leah somehow interprets as encouragement. "She's been getting great footage for her channel," she continues. "Showed me some of it yesterday. You've been taking her to some pretty spectacular spots." The cashier, Jenny, whose brother went to high school with me, starts ringing up my items with poorly concealed interest. I focus on counting out exact change, hoping to end this conversation before it goes any further. "She's at the square right now, actually," Leah adds. "Filming something with Hazel for the fall festival promotion." I freeze, cash halfway to the counter. The fall festival. The event I've avoided for 3 years, ever since Ellie's parents publicly blamed me for her death at the last one I attended. "Good for her," I say roughly, gathering my bags. "Thanks for the update." I exit through the front of the store, intent on getting back to my truck and the safety of the mountain. But as I cross the street, something pulls my gaze toward the town square like a magnet finding north. And there she is. Quinn stands near the central gazebo, camera raised as Hazel gestures animatedly beside her. Clara Langford is there too, holding what looks like a handmade quilt, all three of them laughing at something I can't hear. Quinn's hair catches the afternoon sunlight, her smile wide and unguarded as she lowers the camera to say something to the two older women. She looks happy. At ease. Like she belongs here among these people who have known each other all their lives. Something cold settles in my stomach as I watch them. In just a few days, she's integrated herself into the fabric of this town in a way I haven't managed in 3 years of living on its edges. While I've been hiding on my mountain, she's been connecting, sharing, becoming part of something. And soon, she'll leave. Move on to the next destination, the next story, the next adventure. That's who she is. A traveler, collecting experiences before continuing her journey. She might pause here, might even linger longer than planned, but eventually she'll go. She has a life, a career, a world that exists far beyond the boundaries of Juniper Falls. While I remain rooted in place by grief and guilt and the weight of what happened 3 years ago. As if sensing my thoughts, Quinn glances up. For a moment, our eyes meet across the square. Her smile softens, turns personal, and she raises her hand in a small wave. Hazel follows her gaze, and suddenly I'm the focus of both women's attention. I nod and turn on my heel and head for my truck with long strides. I shouldn't have come to town. Shouldn't have sought escape from memories of her only to find her here, carving out a place for herself in the world I abandoned. And the kiss we shared by the waterfall was nothing but a momentary intersection of two fundamentally different paths. Hers leading onward to new horizons. Mine circling the same mountain, never moving forward. The cabin is too quiet tonight. Usually, I find comfort in the silence, in the absence of demands or expectations. But now it just feels empty, echoing with possibilities I shouldn't consider. I pour a finger of whiskey and stand at the window, watching darkness settle over the mountains. The glass sits untouched as I take out my phone, thumb hovering over the saved messages folder where it's lived for 3 years. I know what I'll hear. Know every pause, every inflection, every background noise by heart. Hey, it's me. Just leaving Dr. Miller's office. Everything's fine, but there's something I want to talk about tonight. Thinking about stopping by my parents' place first, so I might be a little late. Love you. Everything's fine. Those words have haunted me for 3 years. Because nothing was fine. Her car never made it to her parents' house. A truck driver fell asleep at the wheel, crossed the center line, and in an instant, everything changed. While I was fighting a wildfire on the North Ridge, unreachable. I pressed play, holding the phone to my ear, letting Ellie's voice wash over me one more time. The familiar knot tightens in my chest. For 3 years, this voice memo has been both anchor and punishment, keeping me tethered to the past. Love you, her voice says one final time, followed by the mechanical prompt asking if I want to save or delete the message. My thumb hovers over the keypad. I've always pressed 9 to save. Always. But tonight, something different happens. I press 7. Message deleted, the automated voice confirms. The phone goes silent, heavy in my hand like it contains all the weight of what I've just done. I set the phone down and finally take a sip of whiskey, letting it burn a path down my throat. The cabin creaks and settles around me, the familiar sounds of home that haven't changed in years. Nothing has changed, really. Except me.
Chapter 7. Quinn. The drive up the mountain feels different this time. No bakery bag on the passenger seat, no hopeful butterflies in my stomach. Just a hollow determination that grows with each hairpin turn. 4 days. 4 days of silence since our kiss by the waterfall. 4 days of unanswered texts and calls that go straight to voicemail. 4 days of telling myself there must be a reasonable explanation, that someone doesn't kiss you like that and then simply disappears. But yesterday, I saw him in town. He was loading supplies into his truck outside Burke's General Store, and when our eyes met across the street, his expression closed like a shutter. He turned away, climbed into his truck, and drove off without acknowledging me. That was the moment I stopped making excuses for Hunter Rhodes. The gravel crunches under my tires as I pull up to his cabin. His truck is parked outside, which means he can't pretend he's not home. Good. I cut the engine and sit for a moment, steeling myself for what comes next. I'm done with half measures and mixed signals. I'm done wondering what that kiss meant, or why he's been avoiding me. I deserve answers, even if they're not the ones I want to hear. The wooden steps creak beneath my boots as I climb to his porch. I knock firmly, 3 sharp raps that seem to echo through the surrounding forest. Nothing. I knock again, harder this time. Hunter, I know you're in there. Your truck is outside. A long pause follows, then the sound of footsteps. The door opens just enough to reveal him standing there, his expression guarded. He looks tired, shadows beneath his eyes suggesting sleepless nights. Quinn. My name in his mouth is cautious, controlled. Can I come in? I ask, though it's not really a question. I'm not leaving without saying what I came to say. He hesitates, then steps back, opening the door wider. I enter the cabin, immediately surrounded by his scent, his presence, the evidence of his solitary life. The fire crackles in the hearth, casting the room in warm light that belies the tension between us. I turn to face him, arms crossed over my chest. You've been avoiding me. He doesn't deny it. I've been busy. Too busy to answer a text? Too busy to acknowledge me in town? I shake my head. That's not busy, Hunter. That's hiding. His jaw tightens. What do you want from me, Quinn? The truth. I take a step toward him. What happened at the waterfall? Was it a mistake to you? No. The word comes quickly, almost involuntarily. His eyes meet mine for the first time since I arrived, and I see conflict there, a battle between what he wants and what he believes he should do. Then why have you been avoiding me? I press. Why did you look at me in town yesterday like I was a stranger? He runs a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of agitation from someone usually so controlled. It's complicated. Then uncomplicate it for me, I say, softening my tone slightly. Because I'm standing here wondering if I imagined everything between us. Hunter moves to the window, putting space between us. His back is to me as he gazes out at the forest, shoulders rigid with tension. The kiss meant something, he finally says, his voice low. But it can't mean more. The admission both soothes and stings. Why not? He turns back to me. Because you deserve more than what I can give you. You deserve someone who isn't. He trails off, searching for words. Broken? I suggest, anger seeping into my voice despite my best efforts. Is that what you think? That you're too damaged for someone to care about you? I'm not ready, he says instead. For this. For you. That's not your decision to make, I counter. You don't get to decide what I deserve or what I want. You don't understand. Then help me understand. My voice rises with frustration. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're not protecting me. You're pushing me away. His expression hardens. Because this isn't real for you, Quinn. You're just passing through. The words hit like a physical blow. That's not true. Isn't it? His voice rises, 3 years of pain spilling over. This town, these mountains, they're just another destination on your endless journey. Another pretty view for your channel. Another story to tell before you move on to the next adventure. You don't know what you're talking about, I say, my own voice shaking with anger and hurt. I've watched you for weeks, he continues, relentless now. Filming everything, documenting every moment like you're already planning to package it up and take it with you when you leave. Because that's what you do, isn't it? You collect experiences and move on. The accusation steals my breath. Is that really what you think of me? That I'm just some shallow tourist collecting moments? I think you're someone who's built a life around never staying anywhere long enough to get hurt, he says, his voice quieter now but no less cutting. And I can't do that, Quinn. I can't let myself care about someone who's already got one foot out the door. I step back as if slapped, hot tears blurring my vision, but I blink them back furiously. You don't know me at all, I whisper, my voice cracking. You think I'm just drifting from place to place because that's easier for you. Because if I'm temporary, you don't have to risk anything. You don't have to face the possibility that someone might actually stay if given a reason to. I move toward the door, unable to bear the suffocating tension of the cabin any longer. On the threshold, I turn back to him. You're right about one thing. I am always on the move. Because no one has given me a single reason to stop. The words hang in the air between us, heavy with all they reveal about both of us. For a moment, something flickers in his eyes. Regret, perhaps, or the recognition of a truth he's been avoiding. But the moment passes. His expression closes again, the walls rebuild themselves brick by brick. It's better this way, he says quietly. For both of us. I shake my head, no longer able to hold back the tears that spill down my cheeks. No, Hunter. It's easier this way. And those aren't the same thing. I don't know how long I sit by the waterfall, watching the endless cascade through tears that finally ran dry. After leaving Hunter's cabin, I drove aimlessly, somehow finding myself at the trailhead to the place that now hurts most to visit. The light has begun to fade, orange and pink streaking the sky above the tree line. I should head back before dark, but I can't seem to find the will to move. I thought I might find you here. I turn to find Hazel making her way carefully across the rocks, a thermos in one hand, her other gripping a walking stick. Her silver hair catches the fading light, her charm bracelets jingling softly with each step. Hazel. My voice is rough from crying. How did you know where I was? She settles beside me on the flat rock. When a heart breaks in Juniper Falls, there aren't many places to hide. She offers a gentle smile. Especially when you parked your car at a trailhead visible from my afternoon walk route. I manage a watery laugh. Remind me never to commit a crime in this town. Nothing stays secret long here, she agrees, unscrewing the thermos cap. Tea? I accept the steaming cup gratefully, letting its warmth seep into my cold hands. We sit in comfortable silence for a while, watching the water tumble endlessly over stone. He thinks I'm just some tourist passing through, I finally say. Like I'm incapable of putting down roots anywhere. Hazel takes a sip of her tea, considering. And is he wrong? The question stops me short. I don't know. I've been moving for so long, I'm not sure I remember how to stay still. I trace the rim of the cup with my finger. But I've never wanted to try before. Not until now. She nods as if this confirms something she already suspected. Hunter's been lost in the woods for a long time, she says softly, her eyes on the waterfall. Maybe he's finally finding his way out. It doesn't feel that way, I whisper. It feels like he's retreating deeper. Hazel pats my hand, her skin papery soft against mine. Sometimes the path out of the darkest forest isn't a straight line. Sometimes you have to go deeper before you can find your way to the light. As the last rays of sunlight disappear behind the ridge, Hazel rises with surprising grace for her age. Come on, she says. I've got leftover pot roast at home. There's nothing that can't be improved by hearty food and a good night's sleep.
Chapter 8. Hunter. The morning sun casts long shadows across the cemetery, highlighting the neat rows of headstones with a soft golden light. I haven't been here in 3 years. 3 years of avoiding this place, of carrying the weight of grief and guilt without allowing myself the relief of confronting it. But today, I stand before Ellie's grave, a small bouquet of wildflowers in my hand. Columbine and gentian from the meadow where we first met, picked at dawn when the dew still clung to their petals. I'm sorry, I say, my voice rough in the quiet morning air. The words feel inadequate, but they're all I have. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I'm sorry I missed your call. I placed the flowers at the base of her headstone, fingers lingering on the cool marble. The inscription reads simply, Eliza Marie Caldwell. Beloved daughter. Taken too soon. There's nothing about her being a fiancée, nothing about the future we'd planned together. Her parents had made sure of that, their anger at me so complete they'd erased my connection to her even in stone. I met someone, I tell her, feeling strange speaking these words in this place. She's different. Sees the world in colors I'd forgotten existed. I clear my throat. I think you would have liked her. The rustle of gravel on the pathway behind me freezes the words in my throat. Instinctively, I tense, prepared for the possibility of encountering Ellie's parents. It's a confrontation I've avoided for years. But when I turn, it's not the Caldwells I see. It's Hazel, her silver white hair catching the morning light, and beside her, Quinn. My heart hammers against my ribs. She looks beautiful even in her sadness, copper hair pulled back from her face, eyes solemn as they meet mine across the cemetery grounds. She's wearing a simple blue dress that flutters slightly in the breeze, so different from her usual hiking gear but somehow just as authentic. "Hunter," Hazel calls, her voice carrying in the quiet. "I thought we might find you here today." I stand rooted in place as they approach, unable to retreat, unable to move forward. Quinn stays slightly behind Hazel, her expression guarded but not closed off completely. A glimmer of hope sparks in my chest. "Early morning at the cemetery," Hazel says when they reach me, her tone conversational as if we're meeting on Main Street rather than among gravestones. "I had a feeling you'd be here on her birthday." Of course Hazel would remember. She remembers everything about this town and the people in it, especially the painful things most would prefer to forget. I should go, I say, not meeting Quinn's eyes. "Nonsense," Hazel interrupts firmly. "You're exactly where you need to be, and so is Quinn." She looks between us, her green eyes sharp despite her age. Sometimes grief makes people retreat from the world, makes them build walls so thick they can't remember what it's like to live beyond them. Quinn shifts beside her, eyes downcast, fingers playing with the hem of her sleeve. "But walls that keep out pain also keep out joy," Hazel continues, her voice softening. "And love. And all the messy, beautiful things that make a life worth living." I swallow hard, unable to argue with her gentle wisdom. Hazel turns to Quinn, patting her hand. "Listen to what he has to say, dear. Really listen." Then she turns to me, her expression sharpening. "And you. Don't mess this up. Some chances don't come around twice." Before either of us can respond, she's walking away, charm bracelets jingling with each step. She pauses at the cemetery gate to call over her shoulder, "I'll be at the diner when you two sort yourselves out. First slice of pie's on me." Then she's gone, leaving Quinn and me standing among the gravestones, the morning sun warming the air around us. For a long moment, neither of us speaks. I look at Ellie's grave, then back at Quinn, feeling the weight of past and possibility pulling me in opposite directions. "Hazel said today's important," Quinn finally says, her voice quiet but steady. "That it's her birthday." I nod, throat tight. Would have been her 29th. Quinn takes a tentative step closer, not invading my space but making it clear she's not running away either. "Will you tell me about her? About what happened?" The question I've been dreading. The story I've kept locked inside for 3 years, festering like an untreated wound. But looking at Quinn now, I find I want her to know. Need her to understand. Her name was Eliza. Ellie. I gestured to the gravestone. We met in high school, dated through college, got engaged right after. The words come slowly at first, then faster, like water breaking through a dam. She was a pediatric nurse. Smart. Kind. Always saw the best in people. Quinn listens, her full attention on me, not interrupting, not pushing. She's present in a way few people have ever been with me. 3 years ago, there was a wildfire on the North Ridge. Bad one. I was on duty with the fire department, had been out on the line for 20 hours straight. I looked past her, seeing not the cemetery but the wall of flame that had consumed the forest that day. She called while I was fighting the fire. Left a message saying she was leaving the doctor's office, stopping by her parents' house, then coming home. Said she had something to tell me. Quinn's eyes softened with understanding, or perhaps the beginning of it. I didn't get the message until hours later, when we finally got the fire contained. My hands clench at my sides. By then, she was already. I can't finish the sentence. A truck driver fell asleep at the wheel. Crossed the center line. She died instantly. I'm so sorry, Quinn whispers. Her parents blamed me. The old pain rises sharp and familiar. Said if I'd answered my phone, if I'd been there instead of fighting someone else's fire, I could have picked her up, and she wouldn't have been on that road. I swallow hard. They weren't wrong. Hunter. I blamed myself too, I continue, needing to get it all out now that I've started. Still do, some days. Quit the fire department the next week. Moved up to my grandfather's cabin. Couldn't stand to be in town, to see their faces, to be reminded of how I failed her. Quinn steps closer, close enough now that I can smell the light floral scent of her shampoo. You didn't fail her, she says firmly. You were doing your job. Saving lives. She would have understood that. Maybe. I meet her eyes finally. But I couldn't forgive myself. It was easier to retreat, to shut everything out. Everyone out. Until, she prompts softly. Until you showed up with your camera and your questions and your way of seeing beauty in everything. The confession feels like stepping off a cliff, terrifying and freeing all at once. You made me feel something again, Quinn. For the first time in years. Her eyes shine with unshed tears. Then why push me away? Because I'm afraid, I admit, the words barely audible. Afraid of letting someone in only to lose them again. Afraid you'll leave, move on to your next destination like you always do. Afraid I'm not enough reason for you to stay. You don't get to decide that for me, she says, echoing her words from our argument at the cabin. But this time, there's no anger in them. Only a quiet determination. You don't get to decide what would make me stay or go. That's my choice. And what would you choose? I ask, hardly daring to breathe. She looks around at the cemetery, at Ellie's grave, then back to me. I've spent years running from place to place, never letting myself get attached because it was easier than risking disappointment. Documenting beautiful views instead of creating a beautiful life. She takes a deep breath. But sometimes the most breathtaking vistas aren't the ones you see from mountain peaks. They're the ones you build day by day, with someone who matters. Hope rises in my chest, fragile but insistent. Quinn. I'm not saying I'd give up traveling altogether, she continues. That's part of who I am. But I'm saying I'd like a home base. A place, and a person, to come back to. The morning sun bathes her in golden light, making her look almost ethereal against the backdrop of granite and marble. I reach for her hand, half expecting her to pull away. She doesn't. If you're still traveling, I say, my voice rough with emotion, I want to be part of your map. Her smile breaks like dawn over the mountains, bright and full of promise. I'd like that, she whispers, and then she's in my arms, her face buried against my chest, my hands tangled in her copper hair. I hold her like something precious, something I never thought I'd have again. Over her shoulder, I see Ellie's grave, the wildflowers bright against the stone. For the first time in 3 years, the sight doesn't fill me with crushing guilt. Instead, I feel something like peace. Like permission to move forward without forgetting what came before. Quinn pulls back slightly, looking up at me with tear-bright eyes. So what happens now? Now? I brush a strand of hair from her face, letting my fingers linger against her cheek. Now we figure it out. Together. She smiles, her eyes bright with new possibilities. Together, we walk hand in hand toward the cemetery gate, the morning sun warming our shoulders. As we pass through the wrought iron entrance, I take one last look back at Ellie's grave, the wildflowers bright against the stone. For the first time in 3 years, the sight doesn't fill me with crushing guilt. Instead, I feel something like peace. Like permission to move forward without forgetting what came before. We make our way to the outlook point just beyond the cemetery, where the valley spreads out below us in the morning light. Quinn pauses, taking in the view. You know, she says softly, I came here looking for hidden views and secret trails to capture. And I found those. She turns to me, her eyes reflecting the clear blue sky. But I also found something I wasn't looking for. Something more valuable than any vista or viewpoint. She reaches into her bag and pulls out her camera, but instead of pointing it at the view, she steps close to my side. "What are you doing?" I ask as she holds the camera out in front of us. "Making a memory," she says simply. "Our first photo together." I'm not usually one for pictures, but I find myself pulling her closer as she snaps the shot, both of us with the valley spread out behind us, her smile bright, my expression more open than it's been in years. She lowers the camera, looking at the image on the screen. "Perfect," she whispers, more to herself than to me. Sometimes the best stories aren't about the places we go, but the hearts we find along the way. I finish for her, surprising myself. She looks up at me, her smile widening. "Exactly." I pull her close, looking out to the mountains that have been my refuge and my prison for 3 years. With Quinn beside me, it transforms into something else entirely. The beginning of a journey rather than an ending.
Epilogue. Quinn. Juniper Falls, 1 year later. Are we almost there? I ask, pretending to be winded as we climb the now familiar trail to Lookout Point. You know, a year ago I would have believed you when you said this was an easy hike. Hunter glances back at me, the corner of his mouth lifting in that half-smile I've come to love. A year ago you were trying to impress me by not complaining. And now? I quicken my pace to catch up to him. He reaches for my hand, his palm warm against mine. Now I know you're just fishing for me to carry you. I laugh, the sound bouncing off the rocky path. You've caught me. Though that backpack looks heavy enough without adding me to your load. Worth it, he says simply, giving my hand a gentle squeeze. The past year has transformed this trail from an unknown adventure into a familiar friend. We've hiked it in summer heat and autumn chill, watched it bloom in spring and sleep under winter snow. Today, it welcomes us with perfect late spring warmth, wildflowers dotting the edges of the path like tiny celebrants. 1 year since the unexpected storm that stranded us together. 1 year since Hunter Rhodes reluctantly opened his door, and eventually his heart, to the tourist with a camera he was so sure would just be passing through. I haven't passed through. I put down roots so deep they surprise even me. My channel has evolved along with my life, showcasing not just breathtaking vistas but the quiet majesty of small-town existence. My subscribers have followed along as I've discovered the beauty of staying still long enough to see how light changes across the same mountain through seasons, how a community breathes and grows, how a heart expands when it finds its home. Hunter has changed too. Slowly, like a winter thaw, he's reconnected with the town he once avoided. He still guides trail hikes, but now he also helps with restoration projects, attends community meetings, even showed up for the fall festival. His first in years. The trail curves around a familiar bend, and suddenly we're there. Lookout Point is spreading before us in all its glory. The valley below is vibrant with late spring green, the town of Juniper Falls nestled among the trees like a secret waiting to be discovered. Still worth the climb? Hunter asks, echoing the question he asked that first day. Always, I say, meaning far more than just the view. He sets down the backpack, unzipping it to reveal a small feast. A crusty bread from Rising Hearts Bakery, local cheese, sliced apples, and thermoses of coffee. There's even a small container of Leah's famous cupcakes. You went all out, I say, helping him spread the blanket on our favorite flat rock. Special occasion? 1 year since that storm brought you to my door, he says, his eyes warm on mine. Seemed worth celebrating. We settle on the blanket, shoulders touching as we look out over the valley. There's an ease between us now, a comfortable rhythm born of shared mornings and quiet evenings, of learning each other's habits and histories, of building something neither of us expected to find. Do you ever miss it? Hunter asks after a while. The constant travel, never staying in one place too long? I consider the question, watching an eagle soar on thermals far below us. Sometimes I miss the anticipation of what's around the next corner, I admit. But I've learned there are different kinds of discoveries. Like what? He hands me a slice of apple, our fingers brushing. Like how the light hits this exact spot at sunrise in October. Like the secret paths between Main Street buildings that only locals know about. I turn to face him fully. Like watching someone you love slowly heal and open up, revealing new layers each day. The intensity in his gray eyes nearly takes my breath away. Even after a year, he still looks at me sometimes like he can't quite believe I'm real. I never expected you, he says quietly. You were the one adventure I didn't see coming. He reaches into his pocket, pulling out a small wooden box that fits perfectly in his palm. My heart stutters, then races ahead like a stream after spring thaw. Hunter. I know we agreed to take things slowly, he says, his voice gentle but sure. To give ourselves time to be certain. But I am certain, Quinn. More certain than I've ever been of anything. He opens the box, revealing a ring inside, a simple band of silver with a small, perfect blue stone the exact color of the mountain sky after rain. This past year with you has shown me what it means to truly live again, not just exist, he continues, taking my suddenly trembling hand in his. You didn't try to fix me or change me. You just loved me enough to wait while I found my way back. I blink back tears, unable to look away from his face, from the openness there that was once so rare and is now my daily gift. I want to build a life with you. Here, or wherever your adventures take us. I want to be your home base, your constant, your partner in everything that comes next. His voice roughened slightly. Quinn Harper, will you marry me? Yes, I whisper, then louder, yes. 1,000 times, yes. The ring slides perfectly onto my finger, and then his arms are around me, his lips on mine, the familiar scent of pine and sunshine enveloping me like a promise kept. When we finally break apart, both laughing and a little teary, I rest my forehead against his. I love you. Even when you drag me up mountains at ungodly hours. Especially then, he counters, brushing his thumb across my cheek. We sit there in our bubble of joy, sharing maple cupcakes and trading kisses that taste of sweetness and forever. The light begins to shift toward afternoon, bathing the valley in golden warmth. As we're packing up the remains of our picnic, the sound of footsteps on the trail behind us breaks our solitude. A man appears at the edge of the clearing. He's tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair cut short and serious eyes that take in the view with quiet appreciation. Sorry, he says, noticing us. Didn't realize anyone was up here. He turns to leave. Tanner, Hunter calls, recognition in his voice. Tanner Hayes. The man pauses, turning back with a slight furrow between his brows. For a moment, I don't think he recognizes Hunter, but then his expression clears. Rhodes. Been a while. Hunter's hand finds mine as we stand. Quinn, this is Tanner Hayes. We went to high school together. Tanner, my fiancé, Quinn Harper. The word fiancé sends a fresh thrill through me. Tanner nods politely, his handshake firm but brief. Nice to meet you. Hayes just moved back to town, Hunter explains. Taken over his uncle's construction business, right? That's right. Tanner shifts his weight, clearly not comfortable with small talk. Just checking the safety railings as part of the new trail maintenance project. I notice the measuring tape and small tool kit at his belt now. That's perfect timing. I'm working on a feature about the trail restoration for the tourism website, I say. Would you mind if I took a few photos of you working? Put a face to the project? Something shudders in his expression. I appreciate the offer, but I'd rather not. Just doing my job. No problem, I say easily. The offer stands if you change your mind. He nods again, moving past us to examine the railing at the edge of the overlook. His movements are efficient, economical, a man accustomed to physical work and his own company. Hunter and I gather the last of our things, our earlier euphoria muted but still humming beneath the surface. As we head down the trail, Hunter takes the heavier backpack despite my protests. Hayes moved back about a month ago, he says once we're out of earshot. Been keeping to himself mostly. He seems. I search for the right word. Like me, a year ago? Hunter suggests with a self-deprecating smile. Similar, maybe. But everyone's story is different. I glance back up the trail, where Tanner is still visible, a solitary figure against the vast sky. You know him well? Hunter shakes his head. Not really. He left town right after high school, joined the military. We walk in comfortable silence for a while, the ring on my finger catching sunlight as it filters through the trees. I think about the man on the mountain, the careful distance in his eyes, the way he held himself apart. He's good at what he does, Hunter adds. Best carpenter around. Just hasn't quite let the past go, whatever it is. I lean into Hunter's side as we walk, grateful for the journey that brought us here, for storms and sunrises and second chances. I hope he finds what he's looking for, I say softly. Hunter's arm slips around my waist, holding me close as we descend toward home. If he's lucky, he says, pressing a kiss to my temple, it might find him first. Behind us, Lookout Point stands sentinel against the endless blue sky, watching over Juniper Falls and all the stories yet to unfold beneath its steady gaze. The end. This has been Love at Lookout Point. Written by Susanne Ash. Copyright 2025 by Susanne Ash. Production copyright 2025 by Susanne Ash. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe if you want me to put more of my books on YouTube. Visit my website at www.susanneash.com for more of my books or find me on Amazon.